All right, we're back again. Another great opportunity to talk sports today. Today we're going to talk basketball. We're going to talk really improving your basketball skills, really trying to become an elite basketball player with one of the best trainers and consultants on coaching and teaching basketball, Lee Taft. So we're really excited. He's got all kinds of great stuff, from videos to PDFs to all these different things to really help you improve, your sport and in particular as a basketball player. So we're excited to have him on and really talk more about it. Without further ado, let's bring on Lee. Welcome to the show, Coach.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. I've been excited to talk shop with you guys.
Appreciate you, Coach.
Appreciate you guys.
Coach, go into your whole background, how you got into coaching, your playing experience, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, thank you. Well, first of all, I'm the youngest of six. Grew up in a coach's family. My dad was in it for 44 years. He was my principal towards my last few years of school, but he was a phys ed teacher, AD, coach. My brothers coached for 35 years. My sisters were teachers. That was the environment I was in. I played 4 sports in high school, 2 in college. And then I started my coaching career right after graduation. And, I went from, coaching each season right off. I was a phys ed teacher that taught 7-8 classes a day. I coached football, went to basketball, went to track, did it again the next year. And then early on in my career, I left teaching to pursue my master's, and I ended up in strength and conditioning. And so a different type of coaching, but something I was just as passionate about. And then I got back into it. And I'm currently, yesterday was our first day of basketball season down here. I'm a head coach down here in Florida. So we're fired up and getting my practice plan done for day 2. So that's kind of my background.
Really cool. And so you started putting together all the different stuff, like the videos and those kind of things on hoops. And what are some of the things that your trends, like you're starting to see in basketball, to helping them to really improve their skills and that?
Yeah, so the game has changed quite a bit. It's a faster game. The court is spread out more now. The way we play. Of course, when I played, I didn't have a 3-point line until like my final year or second year of college. So it didn't matter if you shot it from 30 feet, it was still 2 points, right? So nowadays, if you stretch the floor out, what happens is you create all these big gaps. So now we start attacking these big gaps. Well, what does that mean? Now I got to have quicker, more efficient moving athletes. We have to be able to, we got to attack these gaps. So years ago, we played tighter. We played closer to the lane. We were around the elbows a lot. It was always, a common offense for years was called a flex offense. And there's still aspects of that in the game. But, the tighter, the better. And now it's like you're seeing 5 guys outside the 3-point line. And so that means as a basketball coach, so if I put my basketball coach hat on, I'm trying to create situations for my players to be able to attack open space and see if I can draw my teammate's defender. And when I draw them, then I'll kick to my teammate who now has a nice decision to either shoot it or drive it or whatever. So now I put my speed coach hat on, or my strength coach, and now my training and my practice plan evolves a lot around escaping space and attacking space, because that's what I'm going to do with the basketball. So that's what I have to do athletically. So that's really the major difference in the game of basketball today, is it's just a lot of space, and players that can play in that space are a lot more productive.
Yeah, and I think, Coach, like you hit it right. you can see the trend as it is. I mean,
Yeah.
just from when, I was growing up in the, the late 90s, early 2000s, like
Yep.
everybody always had a big, right? There was always somebody standing in the middle, and it was, triangle, get it down here, and then, cut off of that. And that big was really your main guy, get it inside and he'll kick, right? And then it
That's
was
right.
like maybe you had one or two guys that shot the three, and it was more about, just kind of getting the closer to the basket, the better it could be. But just like anything, you see it's kind of the same. We talk a lot of football on here and all that kind of stuff. Like you see it go from a condensed run game to now everybody's spread out and throwing the ball and chucking it all over.
Yep.
And it's just kind of the trend of the way things are now. But what I really like about what you've done, Coach, is you've taken that strength and conditioning aspect of it and really started to gear your athletes to that in terms of, hey, if we're going to have to run and cut and do all these other types of things, then we need to train that way with the short explosive movements.
Yeah, exactly. And it's predictive movements, and it's what I tell my players is I say you got to see it coming. So if you drive, Derek, and I'm on the wing or the corner and you're getting ready to kick to me, out of my peripheral vision, I got to see my defender. So as I'm catching, I know he's either not close enough to me so I can catch and shoot, or if he's closing out quick on my catch, I'm going to rip and go. And so we put our players in those situations all the time. And what you can do with that, and this is the cool part, and because I'll get coaches that I consult with, they're like, man, I got players, they're not real fast. I said, that's okay. I said, you can be quick because of early decision making, right?
Yep.
None of us, if we were starting a world-class relay team, would pick Larry Bird on our fast relay team, but you can bet your butt we're going to pick him to play on our team because he had such great perception and he read things really early and he was moving before anybody else. So it always appeared that he was quick.
Yep.
And so I tell my players that all the time: position, posture, and being ready to explode on a catch, whether you're exploding into your jumper or exploding by. If you do that early, you're going to be quick and you're going to create problems for the defense.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like I looked at like your training and the whole methodology of really trying to work on developing that actual quickness, that lateral speed, that and focusing on shorter time frames, which is kind of all the years of basketball. You see all this stuff. Like you go back to when you watch the movie Hoosiers, okay, everything is about even though they're doing those movements, it's about burying everybody. You know what I mean? And that's what was assumed makes you better at basketball in the course of the game. But a lot of it's being learned that obviously to be able to get that short burst of speed, being able to develop that is proven to be the better thing. And then they'll develop the conditioning through to play in the course of the game that'll help them be ready to play in gameplay. But it's that if they're not quick enough, none of it matters. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, without a doubt, because I've been a longtime track coach as well, and I'll circle back to basketball here. But I get a lot of coaches saying, "Well, we got to get them running distance so they're in great shape." And I said, "Listen, when it comes to winning a race, I don't want my kid coming in last, but saying, I'm not even tired anymore." I'm like, I made that easy. I'm like, I want you, if it's an 800 meter, I want you to be able to run 801 meters, and that's it. I want you fast. I want you winning the race. So basketball, we talk about that a lot. We talk about if we're efficient and we can improve our maximal speed laterally, retreating, angularly, or forward, if I can improve that, I can get my miles per hour up. Now when I'm playing sub-maximal, that appears that I'm in great shape because I'm not going 100 miles an hour on every play because I'm faster. I'm fast enough to play at a sub-maximal level and use change of pace, and that allows me to play at a sub-maximal level, which makes me appear in better shape. Now, don't get me wrong. My kids are in shape. We do it, but we do it through play. So
Right.
we teach them how to press, and we press a lot in practice. We teach them how to
That's
run a
huge.
fast break. Yeah, and we fast break a lot. So that's their conditioning.
Right, you're gunning. Your practice habits. It's just like
Absolutely.
football when we're talking about practicing and moving fast, right? Like, hey,
Yes.
we want to get these plays off and go, 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 go. And to be honest, like the days of hey, let's run a play, sit around, talk about it, like those days are
Yeah.
gone because the youth attention span doesn't last that long now. You gotta go out and you gotta just go.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I told my team yesterday? So yesterday was our first official practice. So
That's
of the
phenomenal,
state.
by the way. I mean, look, that's why I love Florida. Like, here we are up here. Like, it's not even Halloween, and we still got, weeks. Probably 3 weeks
Oh
before
yeah.
winter sports start. So, like, I just, it gets me every time, man. I'm like,
Yeah.
and look, notice we're in hoodies here. You're in a nice t-shirt. Like,
I
yeah, I don't
know.
know what we're doing, but that's besides the point. Go ahead, coach.
Well, it's funny because I was just saying to my wife before I'm like, you're gonna go in swimming today, or you're gonna.
Oh my
Wow.
God.
And I'm
Wow.
thinking, but it's like I told my team yesterday because I got a lot of new kids, and it's kind of like tryouts, and I said, I'll tell you what, guys, I'm going to give you. I said we're going to talk about food for a second. I'm going to give you the whole pizza today. You're going to get the cheese and the sauce and the pepperoni and the meatballs and the pepper. You're getting it all today. Tomorrow, I'll start just giving you the pepperoni. I'll break down the whole pizza, what we're doing. So I'm trying to get them to understand. Day one, I want to see what you know and how you react to the whole offense, to the whole 5-on-5. I want to see how you react in our full court press. I want to see how you run our fast break. And then tomorrow, that's going to give the coaches an idea of, okay, all right, here's where we're lacking. We need to put more time into the pepperoni or more time into the sauce or whatever. And then we can start breaking down the skills and go from there. But even when I was a phys ed teacher, I always taught through the games because that kept them focused. It dialed them into what the activity was or the game was. And then I take 30-second sound bites and say, okay, guys, yeah, great job. Hey, Derek, you got to spread out more. Coach, you got to make sure you get rid of that ball quicker. Boom, ready, go. And now they're right back into it. So it gives them good context as to why I was just coaching them on an issue.
Yeah, I think that's an important thing. Like I always think nipping things in the bud and explaining things right on the fly is really helps them to nail what the knowledge they have to gain and to be able to retain it. I think, you see a lot of, I'll explain it to them, at halftime, after practice. Dude, they already forgot, like, even what the issue was. They don't even remember what the issue was. You're talking to them about an issue, and they don't even know what this is. This is not 1988, like they don't remember that. Like they're already texting their girlfriend, forgot everything. And it's not a negative to they still love the sport. It's just that's how their brains are wired now. It's different, a little bit different thought process. So when you're able to nip things in the bud, explain it, then they retain it much more efficiently immediately. And then they can obviously apply it there, and then you don't have to worry about it as much again. And then when it does happen, they will remember because you attacked it right away. I personally hate the, all right, we'll address this at halftime. It's like, no, address this thing now, right before there's 10 more points that get scored, or that's one of the things I love about basketball, because basketball, in football you have you're calling timeouts in a lot other than at the end of the half, emergency situations, things that happen. Basketball, you do it to kill momentum, right? Like to kill, and you can make a quick correction right there, and that's the time to do it, to kill momentum, to stop a team that's rolling downhill on you. It's one of the things I think that makes basketball unique and great, is that you can get real tactical real fast on something and be like, hey man, like, stop doing this. Like, this is what you have to do right now to correct the situation. And they can go and fix it, and you can stop momentum. I think that's what makes it unique about the game. But also from a coaching standpoint is really great. Like, it allows you to fix things on the fly. Like football coaches have had to get out of that mode of like, okay, at halftime we'll explain it to them. I don't want to mess them up right now by correcting this thing that's going on. And the next thing you know, it's another touchdown goes by on your cornerback. You're correcting at halftime, but the game's over. So where you could have fixed it right there. Football coaches have come around to that part of it and are evolving that. But basketball, that's always been the way. And it's more and more as the game gets spread out and you get 5 wides and you have to attack on the fly and fix things on the fly. You thought they were going to play this and all of a sudden they come out in that. Like, whoa, let's get a timeout.
Tough.
Adjust this real quick. Talk about, teaching tactics that are involved in cues that are involved both in your speed training, but that apply to basketball and within basketball itself.
Yeah, great. I love that question. So if we look at a tactic that I may give a team or an individual player in a situation or whatever, it's always predicated on how can that help them be more successful in our offense or our defense or that situation. So if we, for example, one of the things that we try to do is give the person that has the ball, we try to give them as much space as possible. So one of the tactics we use is we run a lot of 2-guard offense, so 2 guys on top, but that's how we start. But we never stay there. We always bring somebody through. We cut them through to the opposite corner or whatever. And what we're trying to do is, number 1, create space. Number 2, read what the defense is going to do. Like, how is it? Like football, you'll send somebody in motion because you want to see, are they in man?
Yeah. Yep.
Or are they in zone? Well, we'll do the same. We're going to send somebody through. Did they go with them? Are they going to switch? And that gives my guys triggers or ideas right off. Okay, they're going to switch. So this is how you're going to react. Right. You're going to counter their switch. And so our practices are designed around that.
It's amazing.
Now, so athletically, and I'll get to another point, which is really important, I think, but I'll jump back there in a second. So athletically, tactically, we do a lot of things where we talk about position and posture dictates your function, right? We know that in strength and conditioning. Well, from a speed perspective, it's important too. So if we're in a defensive stance and I know I need to be able to help or I need to be able to close out quickly, we give them footwork strategies that help them be able to get to that closeout or be able to help on rotation. And the reason I bring that up, guys, is because how many times do you hear a coach say, move your feet, go get there quicker? Well,
all day.
Yeah, but it's like, okay, well, help the kid. Like, show them.
Don't just tell him. How about you show him how to do it? A lot of guys just love to, yell stuff and finger point. But like, if you're, you now have to like show him exactly what he's doing or give him some options as, hey, when you're doing this, you do that, right? Exactly. And you have to like execute that and literally run through that. And that's what practice time is for.
Yep.
I mean, you think it's kind of like, hey, like, doesn't everybody do that? And it's like, no, that's really not how majority of it goes. The execution needs to come from a point or a coaching point that literally is separated.
Yeah, exactly. The other part to that, which is really important, is language. So we use short phrases or words to describe the footwork we want. On offense, like I could tell you guys 5 different dribble moves and you would know them. Crossover between the legs, around the backspin, and you know them. Offensively, we do it all the time. Defensively, we just say, go harder, move your feet, hustle. So what we did is I create, like we have a shuffle called a snap shuffle.
Right.
Well, the tactic behind that is if we're hedging or we're doing what we call feinting, and like we're not really going, we're just going to fake that we're going, we do what's called a snap shuffle. If we're in what we call drop coverage, we use what's called a waddle shuffle. If we're exploding back into help defense, we use what's called a power lateral run. So we teach the kids that, and they know it. And so now the language equates to how we move our feet. And once they get it, now the situation or the tactic drives the footwork. But practice, that's what practice is for. And then my last point I wanted to get back to. So this is my third year, started my third year here. We moved down here. The job came available, got it. My son happened to be going to this small school, and the AD asked if I was interested, so I took it over. Well,
sure.
I know
sure.
because I've coached multiple sports, football and basketball and track and all these, I know it usually takes about the third year for your system to evolve and the players start to feel comfortable, because I'm not a set play guy. We run a set out of a timeout or out of a dead ball, but typically we just make the players learn concepts. Hey, if you got a big gap, attack it. If you don't, pass it and cut through. And so we constantly teach them situations that they have to learn to read. But I know as a longtime coach now to be patient and allow that to evolve. Because this is our third year, all of a sudden, kids are doing things that I don't even have to say anything anymore, because they read what the action is based off what the defense does. So not a lot of coaches aren't patient enough. It drives them nuts if they don't do it perfect each time. And I'm like, no, the ugliness is what I want, because then I know we're going to figure that out. And so we put them in those situations. Like, you got to make decisions, and the more decisions you make, the more experience you get.
100%.
Yeah, I think the key is being able to think on the fly, learning to make those decisions, taking that ownership. That's a huge part of helping them to continue to improve. And you start to see those massive improvements once they start to understand how to figure things out, and giving them those tools to figure things out on the fly it is huge. What are you seeing as far as the type of investment that kids are putting into improvement and development between going places, or what are you seeing there?
Yeah. So I love this question, because I got a great example I can give, and hopefully the parents or coaches or whatever, or athletes that are listening to this understand this. So I think more and more, like when I grew up, you went and you played your 3-4 sports, and you went from one to the other and the other, and you got better during that season. When the season was over, you kind of hung around your favorite sport still. Like I even after football practice, we would go home, eat, go down to the park and play basketball, right? I mean, we just always played basketball, but we kind of went. Nowadays, kids aren't even playing the extra sport because they specialize and they work on it. So yeah, they're improving the skills, but I think there's a drawback to it. There's a downfall to it, as well as a positive. But this is my point. So I have a player on my team. He's new this year. And since he was young, he's a sophomore now, but when he was like elementary school, his parents got him a skills coach. And he's worked with this skills coach since then, so many years. This young man cannot dribble with his left hand. He cannot attack going to his left hand. So my thing is, what is the skills coach doing for you?
Like, what do you...
what are you doing if you can't go? Yesterday I had him, and we cleared what we call a triple gap for him. That means there's huge space. You got a Mack truck. You could drive through it. He couldn't go that way because it was his left hand, and the defender put pressure on him. So when I do quote unquote skill development with my team, what we do is we put them in situations where they have to read and make decisions. It isn't just about dribbling through a bunch of cones, because the decision determines the strategy I use to manipulate the ball.
Right.
It's not always about being, fancy and, go 5 times behind my back. And that, there's nothing wrong with that if it's helping you be able to carry it over. But that's what I'm seeing a lot, is a lot of kids that are getting additional help. And I'm always for help. Oh, don't get me wrong. But if the help isn't transferring into play, what good is it? It's like a wide receiver only running dry patterns and never getting press coverage, never learning how to release off a line. never learning how to run across the middle, having to make a judgment because somebody's ready to knock their head off.
Business decision.
Yeah, it's decision. And that's basketball. Basketball, I can't think who it was. I'm drawing a blank on he's retired now. Former NBA player, almost like 20 years in the league, guard, really great. He said, I have never done one cone drill in my entire life. He goes, I played in the park, and he played 20 years in the NBA. He goes, you learn because somebody guards you, and you got to figure it out. And I think that's where skill development, when I do mine, it's usually with multiple players in their reading situations. Now they're actually able to play the game versus just show me they can dribble 20 times between their legs, but not be able to actually use that in a competition.
Right. And that's the hardest part, I think, for, we were talking about football, right?
Yeah.
Like, it is extremely hard to mimic game situations outside of a game with football, right?
Yes.
Whereas basketball, you can go play pickup and look, that's how we grew up, right? Like, it would be football season and we'd sneak down there and be like, yo, we're going to go play some pickup because, coaches, let's not do that, guys. We don't want to get hurt. But that was just part of what we did. We played games and we figured out how to handle this. And hey, remember when we were at the park and this guy did that? So you know what? Now let's transfer it and do this. So those types of things, I think when you can mimic game-like situations as much as possible, that's where you really take your skills to the next level, because you're not in those, protective little bubbles of, hey, I'm just going to dribble through this cone, or I'm going to do this. And it's the same thing as if you, like you said, you're catching routes on air, like there's no defender in front of you, or, hey, I draw this route with a straight line. Like that never happens in a football game. You're never running a straight line on a route. And it's the same thing with basketball. You have to make those quick decisions and condition your body to make it as game-like as possible.
Exactly. And the cone drills, the on-air drills are great to learn patterning and feel for a ball. And that's why you can warm up with them, you do a lot of stuff. But at the end of the day, you got to be able to transfer it, because there's going to be change of pace once you have a defender involved. Now it changes how you do it. Yep, for sure.
And I always like to say, it's like, hey, things change when the lights go on. Like, that's just what it is. Like, there's a lot of guys that can go out there, play football, right, and run around in shorts and a T-shirt and be totally okay when they're trainer and look like the greatest thing since sliced bread. But when you put pads on and now those lights go on, things change. And it's exactly the same with basketball. When you get that defender that now wants to press you full court, well, hey, bud, like, I don't know if those cone drills are really going to do much right now when that guy's in your face.
That's right. Game on.
That's it.
First step quickness, is always, I always think it's one of our first step or 1-2 step is the two probably most important things in basketball, right? Be able to create separation. The first and then that second step. What can athletes do? I mean, most people know about, lateral drills or quick changes, right? What are some of the things that they can do in training to improve first step or first 2-step quickness?
Yeah. So there's a couple things we wanted to talk about on that. When we're talking about that first step, we're talking acceleration, because we're not at maximal speed, so it's acceleration. Acceleration requires a little bit more strength. We're a little lower to the ground. We're pushing hard. Our knee angles, our ankle angles, our hip angles are much greater. It almost looks like a step-up exercise, but leaning forward. So I'm really pushing down into the ground to move my center of mass forward. So one of the things we do, coaches, is during practice, I have these really big, long, they're about 110-inch looped bands, rubber bands. And we'll put them around the kids and around the players, and we do quick, like you said, first 2 steps, first 3 steps, acceleration drills with these bands. What the band does is it tells my nervous system, it tells my brain, like, whoa, hey, man, I got to work harder here. I got more weight to push now because this band. So the athletes learn to produce more force. From a physiological standpoint, that means we're getting greater rate coding of the muscle. We're doing things that are allowing us to produce that force more efficiently and effectively. Number 2 we can get and we will get an elastic response if we have a repositioning action of our feet. So let's say I'm standing and let's say I'm on offense and I'm dribbling the basketball, but I'm in a parallel stance. So I'm facing you, my feet are parallel to you, you're off me enough, but then all of a sudden I see a window to explode by you. What's going to happen is my feet are going to reposition. One's going to go behind me, the other one's going to go in front, and that one that goes behind me will get straighter. As that leg gets straighter, it becomes more elastic. That's the difference of, like, if I take the people who are listening will have to take my word for it. The ones who are watching can see it. If I take my finger on my chest and I just tap it as hard as I can, I get some energy. But if I take my other finger and I snap it, it's very elastic. It's very aggressive. Well, that's what happens when we get that quick switching of the feet, which I call a repositioning or a plyo step. And what it does is it allows that Achilles tendon and the gastroc, the calf, the soleus, everything to become very elastic, and we move really quick. That's those quick bursts that we see. Now the front leg is going to take my body mass as I move over it. That's the leg doing the step up. That's the one pushing hard to really explode me into that second step past my defender. So as a novice coach who doesn't understand the intricacies of that, just trust that a band will increase your athlete's potential to produce more force. And then the reaction drill, which would be like, you could have a partner standing in front of you, maybe 10 feet, 12 feet, drop the basketball, and that player has to try to quickly run forward and get it before it bounces twice. That's training that quick burst, elastic acceleration. So those are two ways we work on, and they're super simple. They don't take a lot of time, and they don't take a lot of equipment, just bands that take us, 3 seconds to put on.
Where does strength training fall into the kind of the help from that standpoint? Is that something that complements it for the best players?
Sure does, because again, strength gives me the ability to produce more force. If I can produce more force, I can move my body mass through space. The other thing it does for me is, if I'm doing it properly, if I'm strengthening, especially my lower leg, I'm strengthening that Achilles tendon, that calf. And so now when I produce that force, I have a nice, strong calf muscle that can allow the tendon to be more elastic. When we see somebody, like Watson with Cleveland, his Achilles tendon goes. Oof. And then last year you had Rodgers and who was the other quarterback? He's with Atlanta now. He was at Minnesota. Cousin had the Achilles. Well, if we can strengthen that calf muscle, basic exercises, like calf, everybody knows how to do a calf exercise, do heel, toe raises, and we get that thing strong, and then we do it like isometrically. We hold it. Well, what happens is that muscle is strong enough to withstand that tendon that is creating all that high energy, and then we move really quick. So when you watch a Tyreek Hill make those amazing quick bursts and cuts, and the running back from Boise, that's like, you want 200 and something yards again. You watch, these guys have incredible stiffness, and that is built in the weight room. They get incredibly strong. Those muscles can withstand the force the tendons are trying to push. So it's important. It really is.
That's a great point about the stiffness, because people always think that, like, the level of, now flexibility is important, but the level of flexibility helps to improve speed. And it's really not. It's, if you look at the way that sprinters are built, and they're tightly wound, and they're able to generate more force because of that. Their tendons that are more explosive because of that. And they, it's totally different than this whole like mentality of like, we must be super, super loose. You want your muscles to be able to move and to be warmed up and to be able to be taught to be able to explode. And then you obviously have to help athletes recover and prep properly so they don't have those kind of injuries. But it's not from stretching, quote unquote. It's always fun. I tell Derek this all the time. I coach my son's team, and in football. And I see everybody. I can't believe it because I watch things and guys spend all their time stretching in warm-ups. And they say, how come you guys never stretch? I said, listen, if we were going to stretch, it would only be from a team camaraderie standpoint, meaning we're putting people in lines. So we get like this whole camaraderie thing that we're doing. But if I'm trying to get my guys ready to move and ready to play, we're moving from the second we step on the field or the court. We're moving. We're changing direction. We're walking lunge. We're doing things dynamically. We're doing high knees. We're going shuffling. We're doing things that are getting our bodies ready to perform. And that's the most important thing. Like even push-ups before practice, right? You're heating up the muscles. They're like, oh, push-ups gets you. Yes, did it get you stronger? Yes. We're also heating up the muscles, ready for them to perform. Same thing with even sit-ups because we do that in our warm-up. They're like, wow, yeah, because it helps them preparing for striking. It's helping them preparing for those kind of things. And and guys are so amazed by that. And you know what I would say the most important thing that comes out of it? It has nothing to do with actually do we play better on the field. Yes, it helps with that. But it helps us reduce injuries on the field.
Yeah.
That actually helps you reduce injuries on the field. Moving early before you actually get to do something, okay? Moving, developing that stage development in movement, progressing from shorter space movements to longer space movements to change. And then you can prepare yourself to then explode on the field. And even when you're doing things at the end of practice, it's better to start do some easy movements at the end before maybe if you're going to do any kind of stretching going into a stretch, you ease into those things. And that prepares the body. It heats the body up. It cools the body down at the end and prepares you to be healthier in your body. And everyone's like, wow, that's where we're doing it. It's not, but I can't believe when I see things today. I'm mesmerized with like the coaching ignorance that's out there. And I'm not talking about X's and O's. Yeah. Those guys can be very good in X's and O's.
Yeah.
Part of coaching, unfortunately, unless you're at the college level where you have guys that you could hire to do these things for you.
That's right.
Right. You don't have to have that knowledge base because you hire guys who have that knowledge base. You have to generate that knowledge base at the lower levels, which includes high school, right? Yeah. That is the lower levels, the development levels, because that allows your team to be healthier. And that's the thing that I think a lot of coaches miss. Like the guys like you are rare out there. And when you explain it to a lot of guys, until they actually see it in action, it's hard for them to process it. Well, this is what my coach did in 1995 when he coached me. This is what we did.
Exactly.
Well, that was wrong. Okay. Yep. We have to learn to evolve as coaches because our goal is to help the kids get better and to be healthier in their sport. Like burnout is a real thing. How do you prevent burnout? Well, you train in stages. You train properly. You do multiple sports, right?
Yep. 100%.
You do different types of movement. And if a kid does play, like you get into a lot of stuff. Well, okay, the kid only plays basketball. Like I said, well, to the parent, okay, if your kid is only going to play one sport, you better be training as if he's playing other sports.
Yes, exactly.
Training the movements as if he's playing other sports. It's hard to convince parents like do 3 sports or whatever. Sometimes it's time. Sometimes they really think that's their only way their kid has a chance.
Yeah,
I can't convince you of that. It's hard to convince parents get it in their head. But let me convince you that you need to train at least in that way. If you're not going to play multiple sports, train in a way that they develop well-roundedness from their body standpoint. So the fact that if they're a basketball player and they're doing only basketball movements, they don't get heavy-handed in that area and end up overtraining those areas, right?
Yeah,
same
exactly.
thing with any other sport, baseball, football, any soccer, whatever it is, right? And start to train them in that way. And how do you explain that to parents? Because you probably have basketball players that are only doing basketball, right? Or
Right. Yep.
it's a luxury when you get the kid that does multiple sports because you know that they're probably going to be okay, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
How do you explain that to parents?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think you got to listen really well to the parent's story because they'll tell you what they're afraid of, and they'll start to give you. So I had a parent not too long ago that was like, but we want to put the time in so that we can get them in front of coaches and they can get, and this was a basketball parent, so they can get looked at. And I said, well, first of all, make sure it's not your dream and make sure it's your kid's dream. So don't push it on them, make sure you talk with your child. And if they want to play another sport, let them play it. Number two, all the top coaches love the multi-sport athlete because they like the athlete that can be adaptable to different coaches, to different movements, to different schemes. And they know if they've had multi-planar movement because these different sports, they know they're probably not as beat up, right? They're not as, if they went and they played tennis and then they ran, track and they played basketball or hockey. Well, they had a lot of variation. So I said, don't think the top coaches want your kid only playing basketball because they don't. So that doesn't mean during that other sport, your kid still can't be getting, 2,000 shots up a week in the gym. You can still do that stuff if you want, but make sure they have the opportunity. The other thing, to your point, Coach, is I always have said, if I get a parent that says, well, my kid really doesn't like any other sport, I said, okay, let athletic development be their other sport. Let the strength training program and the speed and agility program be their other sport. And I said, treat it like that. So I said, once a week, have a game. So we're going to test their 10-yard sprint. We're going to test their vertical. We're going to test their 7-yard shuffle. We're going to test their ability to open their hips and go 10 yards. And we're going to time these. That's their competition each week. That's their games. So they get to look forward to something. It's kind of like they get to do a combine every week. That's their competition. That's fun for them because they get to see where they're at, where they're lacking. But they get to look forward to something. And then you're doing your training the other time. I said that wouldn't be any different if they played football because every Saturday or every Friday night, they got a game. So give them that excitement for 6, 7, 8 weeks and then take a break and then come back, but give them some new games like competitions like medicine ball throw. Buy them a shot put. Teach them how to throw a shot put. You talk about incredible force production. Teach them how to do that. Teach them how to, do like backpedal. We do backpedal competitions where one player will start 5 yards in front of them and they go at each other. The kid has to backpedal as far as they can until that sprinter passes them. And we test, how far did you backpedal before you got past? Because the sprinter should beat the kid backpedaling at some point. And so we'll do competitions. So that now that's their competition. So yeah, all right, maybe they're playing basketball year round, but now you're giving them something else to develop athletically. So those are things that I talk to parents about. I just had a kid drive in from several hours away, spent a couple hours with me, and I broke down his steel. He's actually a player he's a junior in high school, but he got a scholarship to play at South Carolina for baseball. And we broke down his technique and how to get a better jump and all this. But I also gave him things to train because he doesn't play any other sports to kind of train like that. So he's got a 6-week sprint program and he does some other things. And I said, you got to keep it fresh for them because otherwise, even if the kids love the sport, eventually they're like, I don't want to do this today. You know what I mean? Give them some other stuff to do.
No doubt. Competition in things outside of their sport, like mini combines and those kind of things, I think is so great because you're right. They get jazzed up for it. They're super excited. It's another type of competition, and it's not the same competition that they're used to, right? Yeah. It's not.
And you know what it does? I don't mean to interrupt you, Coach.
No, feel free.
It allows you as a parent or a coach and the player to learn what planning means, what preparation for a competition. So if I have a game on Friday night, I don't want my hardest practice of the year to be on Thursday, right? So if I know on Saturday, that's at my combine, I'm going to do a vertical jump, I'm going to do a standing medicine ball throw or whatever, I can plan for that through the week. I can prepare myself for that. So it gives them that opportunity as well. And that's an important skill for kids to learn. And to your point, now they can learn how to recover. How do I recover after that? And so you're giving them opportunities to know how to recover because you're giving them a competition to go through. Now we got to recover from that and we'll get ready for Monday.
That's a great point. And actually that leads into my next question, which is rest and recovery, right? So part of building, this is always the hardest thing, I guess, when you're, between getting your team ready or getting a kid ready for games and stuff. And then also overall development. That's a tough balance, right? Recovery is so important. How do you try to teach your athletes to recover when they may not have the normal recovery times when you're trying to build speed? Like, maybe leading up to the season, when you have off-season time, yes, you can space it out. But you're leading the season, you're trying to prepare, but you want them to still recover so they keep exploding and developing throughout the season. How do you kind of work that?
Yeah. So one thing I always tell my kids and I tell my parents when we're laying out our season and our training is I am always the type of coach that would rather be a mile short than an inch over. Meaning, if I push you so hard and I cross the line and I get you into an overtraining effect where all of a sudden you're getting colds really easy, you're getting tendinopathies or tendon issues, you're getting back pain and all this stuff, that's my bad. I pushed you too hard. So I'm always on the other side of that because I always can keep going with you if I keep you safe. So that's the first thing. Now, in terms of recovering, one thing we do when we do fundraising is we fundraise so that we can buy these little protein drinks that we give to kids right after games and or practices. And so the kids start to get, at least before they get home, they start to ingest some protein, helps them recover with carbohydrates. So their energy systems are able to get recovered. So we start that process right off. And then we talk to them about the low-hanging fruit, like sleep, hydration. If you are not getting, and I know most of my kids don't, it's just who they are. They're young kids, they're playing games and they like to do it late. But I tell them, I said, okay, at least you know the rule. Okay, I'm telling you, if you don't get at least this much sleep, this is probably why you feel sluggish and why you're unable to have cognitive quickness. And you're just not able to absorb the information that I'm giving you, or on a game day, you're just sluggish. Those are things I can't help you with if you're not willing to go through that.
At some point, you got to do that part.
Easy. It's the low-hanging fruit stuff. You just got to get yourself tired, go to bed early, and get up, rested. And then we obviously talk about the nutritional part. But the other thing we do is every one of my players has a foam roller. So we roll, and the rolling is done while I'm talking. So when I'm giving all my announcements, hey, bus is going to leave at this time, or make sure this is signed, or make sure, we have practice change or whatever. While they're doing that, they're rolling out areas of their body that are stiff. When I used to coach football, we would do it with our hands. I showed them how to just massage your calf, your quad, your hamstring, whatever. So we would do stuff like that. And that helps preparation, but it also helps the recovery process. So if we can hit the low-hanging fruit, good nutrition, good hydration, get some good, like a protein drink or something like that in right after a practice. And then we do the proper rest. And then we're doing our proper warm-ups and cool-downs, which help the recovery. And the other part, and Coach, you guys talked about this, we want to continue strength training so that our body remains resilient. Because when we start reducing and getting away from strength training during the season, now we become more prone to those injuries. and we actually don't recover as well. So we want to make sure we maintain a level of strength that helps us to recover. So if we can do those things, we're pretty good. And we work pretty hard at it. And I would say the majority of the kids try to buy in. And that's why we've been pretty lucky with staying healthy.
That's phenomenal stuff. I mean, it's
big.
Yeah, it's incredible hearing how kind of your process is. You obviously really get it. Do you have like it's kind of my final question. Do you have like a timeline that you put all your athletes on, and how do you communicate that to your families so they understand like kind of what you expect and what your progression is and so on and so forth?
Are you talking in terms of development athletically and basketball wise?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So at my former school, when I was coaching in Indiana, one thing that I did, and I hadn't done it here yet, even though I express it verbally, there I had this huge dry erase board. And I put the months, so when we were just prior to the season, and in Indiana, we didn't start until November. Here we start obviously the end of October. But I would put like, September, October, this is where I expect you to be skill-wise and athletically. These are our focus points. I want you to develop this capacity, and I want you to have these skills. Then the start of the season, up until this point, these are the things you have to understand from our out-of-bounds plays, our defense, and our offense. Not a lot in that first month and a half. It's just getting it. And then mid-season, we have to have these things in, and athletically, you should be able to do this. And then by the time we get to tournament time, that last part of December, January, approaching February, these are the things we have, and these are the things we're starting to weed out. Like over the time, we noticed things like that. Well, it's like, all right, this just isn't working for us. Like we're trying to force feed it. It's not working. It's not a part of what we really want to be. We found that out. So we weed it out. And I tell the kids, get rid of it. Don't think about it anymore. It's no longer. And then we start putting the things that are going to fine tune us athletically, recovery wise, preparation wise, and then skill wise. By this time, you should be able to do these skills. And that's what we want. And if you do that year after year, the players start to understand there's a progression to development. It isn't, hey, day one, I need to be the best player I can be. Well, it doesn't work that way.
There's a process to it.
Yeah. And so we used to write it out, and I had bullet points under it. And I told the kids, this is when the phones came in handy. So I tell them, come on in my office, get your phones, every one of you, take a picture of this. Now you've got it. Now you've got a picture of what it is, and now you can refer to it so you know where we should be and where you should be.
Phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal stuff, Lee. Like, I don't know if you have anything else, Derek, but this was fantastic to really hear your approach to everything.
I appreciate it, Coach, taking the time, man. It's awesome.
Thank you. No, what I appreciate about you guys is you're giving an opportunity to have your listeners, continue to grow, just like we want our players to. I learn every day. I'm up here right now. This is called my speed cave. This is my garage where I train and I do. Right. I'm up in at 5 a.m. and I have my computer on with a YouTube on some coaching method, and I learn every day. You guys are providing that easy for parents and coaches and athletes, because you're giving, not only guys like me, but your input, because you guys have been around and you've coached and you get it, and you're giving an opportunity for people to learn. So I thank you for doing what you're doing for this wonderful profession we have.
No doubt. It's great. It's great meeting people like you. I know Derek agrees with me on this, and like we learned so much from what you tell us. You know what I mean? It helps us when we talk with other coaches. Helps us when we coach our own groups of kids that we work with, and it's great to share in a community, because we are trying to we're trying to push the path for coaches to evolve, right? Like And there's so many more people coaching, and I'm speaking specifically at the high school and youth level, really, that
right, where it's most important for those guys to, like, you know, have that knowledge, right?
and there's a lack of it,
you got to
right? There's
adapt.
really a lack of it.
That's
You
right.
know, that's the hardest part. It's not from a lack of want to from those guys. They're usually really great guys. It's really a lack of how things have evolved, because if you didn't play college sports, for example, the people who played some level of college sports or went into coaching right away have an advantage. But a guy who's a dad, okay, all of a sudden now they have a kid, it's 20 years later, and now they're asked to coach XYZ, this 8th grade team or this 7th grade team, and they want to help. They really genuinely do.
Yeah.
They're drawing from their knowledge base from 20 years ago, and there are things
You coach the way you were coached.
Yeah, there are things from 20 years ago that are very applicable still.
They're irrelevant. They're
but there are
gone.
some things that are not relevant, right? That have evolved, and it's hard for them to really understand the thing. And I think that's what this stuff is done really nicely. Like, they can go and grab snippets, grab the whole video, whatever, and watch it and pick up a couple of things that maybe can help them in what they do every single day. Because and it's not. It doesn't have to be. It's low pressure, meaning it's not someone else telling them what to do. They can watch it and say, "Oh wow, Lee knows this guy. Lee knows what he's talking about. Great, I might take some of these things that'll help me. Oh, this is why a team is playing 5 around the 3-point line. Like when my son's AAU team, they came out and when it were 5 around the 3-point line, I had never seen anything like it before. I was like, whoa. I was like, oh my goodness. And the guys were cutting and they're running up and down. Now Derek, who played AAU, understood it, right? Yeah. But I didn't. I was like, oh my goodness. You know,
it's different.
And they were just getting up and down the court, man. They were just getting up and down the court. You know?
Well, you know, the other thing, and I think it's really important for young moms and dads who want to help their children, from the YMCA rec league to a travel team to a high school team, or if they, you know, coach some advanced level, is the more they understand how learning occurs, the better coaching they can give those kids. Because when a child makes a mistake, that's the brain trying to figure something out. If we chastise and we embarrass and we yell at, what happens is that child, no matter if they're 9 years old or 19 years old, now they become more hesitant and they don't want to do that again. So now we're losing their ability to advance and challenge themselves. So if we understand learning and you make a mistake, I'm going to say, hey, you know, great try. Good job. Keep it going. Maybe try this. Maybe give it 1 second. Let your defender, you know, clear out, or your offense, whatever the situation is. That type of feedback encourages them to keep trying, so they understand they will get it. But if we jump on them, like I see a lot of dads or moms that do coach youth, they yell at their kids if they make a mistake. I'm like, that's the learning. Learning is ugly. It's supposed to be. And then the brain says,
so that you don't have to continue to do it. Like,
exactly.
This is what and that's more of a trust in the process thing as well, right? Like, you got to learn to do that. And it's in the age of instant gratification, like, sports are still a process of development and continuing to get better. And that's just what it is. And the guys that dive in and they believe in that and they continue to preach that over and over are the ones that at the end of the day are more successful, not just in their sport, but just in life in general, because that's what life is, man. Like, you know, it's a process.
Yep.
So,
absolutely.
Coach, I appreciate you. I really do.
Thank you,
if
guys.
there's anything we can do for you, just let us know.
Likewise.
I mean, I think it's awesome. Year 3 should be a nice turnaround.
We're hoping. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you. Have a great rest of the week.
Thank you.
You too, Coach.
Week.
All right. Take care. Bye now.
Take care.
That was phenomenal.
Good stuff, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go up here. I want to know if I could borrow you also for college football frenzy after this to do a little.
Yeah, when?
Maybe right away we'll go, instead of I was supposed to go 12, but Shane's not going to be available. I want to grab you for a half hour. Can we do it?
Yeah. Let's do it.
All right, good. All right.
What are we talking? I need to know anything?
This weekend's college football. It's stuff you already know, probably.
Ooh, let's go.
Okay, cool. So, all right, let's get off. By the way, Lee was phenomenal.
Dude, he's awesome. I mean, I dove in. I went down a rabbit hole when I started watching his videos and talking about explosiveness and this and that. And I know you wrote down. Yep, I did. I know.
His workout.
When I saw him,
his base workout.
But when I saw his stuff, I said, "Wow, I haven't really seen a quote basketball guy dive into the strength and conditioning aspect in such a, you know what I mean, like an intentional movement." When I started watching this, I'm like, damn, I've been playing this type of basketball forever with 5 guys on the edge and moving here and doing all that quick twitch stuff. Like, it's a guy. And look, he even talked about it. I've coached every sport, right? And he related everything to some other sport or some other thing. Like, it was awesome. I would love to talk to him again and just even get even deeper into what it is. But I also love that Florida started their hoop season already.
I know, it's amazing.
Dude, it's like
the South
not
is
not even Halloween,
like
dude. And he's like, "Yup, day 2 of practice today. Like, let me write it down."
The South is a sports playground.
It's just like, did you hear him? Yeah, my wife. Are you gonna swim today? Are you not? Like, what are we doing?
Such a sports playground. I don't know what I'm doing in my life. All right. Let's
breaking leaves and stuff.
Till next time.